Content warning. In this video, I talk about ableism, fat phobia, medical abuse, and medical neglect. It's kind of a bummer sometimes, but hopefully not all the times.
Schizophrenia is integral to who I am. It is a part of me. Like, the question isn't how do you get rid of the schizophrenia, it's how do I treat this? How do I take care of this? The problem is not that I'm schizophrenic. I'm going to be schizophrenic no matter what. The problem is our society and how we see schizophrenic people and how we treat it. Hi, my name is Lavender and my pronouns are they, them. Okay, I'm going to be talking about schizophrenia and ableism. Schizophrenia as a disability, schizophrenia as a type of neurodivergence. So I got the idea for this video during an episode that I had in 2021, the beginning of 2021. And it was during a disorganized episode, and it was around the time whenever I was really looking into stuff about disability justice and I followed this Instagram account called Psychosis Positivity, which I will link. I really like their stuff. Also like Living Well with Schizophrenia, the YouTube channel. So I actually like vlogged my entire episode, like my week-long episode, and it was the first time in my life that I was recording things not to prove something to somebody, not to prove my diagnosis, not to prove that I was really schizophrenic. And I ended up never really doing anything with the videos because I don't know, it's really personal and kind of an uncomfortable thing to share, and I didn't really see a need to. And this video is also inspired by Ashton Daniels' new video where they talk about how they went to school for psychology and realized that the psychology discipline is like really kind of fucked up and ableist. So I'm gonna link that video too. It's very, very good. Watch their stuff, watch all of their stuff. They are perfect and an angel. So, so I'm going to be talking about my experiences with the psychology field as a schizophrenic person, right? Like, one of the most stigmatized mental illnesses that there is. And it is also stigmatized by psychiatrists, therapists, the mental health field, inpatient. Are, I don't think people realize that. I don't think people realize the connection between the severity of schizophrenia and our lack of treatment that is directly caused by this stigma. So, I'm gonna try to talk about this. I didn't write anything down, I don't have an outline. It's going to be a mess, but hopefully I sound smart and cool. By the way, this is my orangutan that I got for my birthday yesterday. His name is Bubba the orangutan. He's named after my dog, Bubba, because I love Bubba and I love orangutans. So first, I guess I'm going to talk about my misdiagnosis and my refusal to get a diagnosis and how I am literally self-diagnosed schizophrenic. Essentially, I do have an official diagnosis, but it's because I'm a liar. So I will always support self-diagnosis because there's so much discrimination involved with getting a diagnosis. So I'm going to give a little background. Basically, I'm schizophrenic. I have a family history of schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is genetic. There's a very direct link there. And then I have been experiencing hallucinations and paranoia for essentially my entire life since I was like probably 5 years old. Like, some of my earliest memories are of hallucinating skeletons, being paranoid at night that some kind of monster is gonna get me, hearing voices. I don't think I've ever had a time in my life where I did not hear voices. Then as I started to get older, around 9 years old, I had a big traumatic experience, and then I started having more severe symptoms with schizophrenia because schizophrenia is triggered by stress. And for somebody who has had so many childhood traumas, My schizophrenia developed super early. Usually, schizophrenia develops in people's early 20s. A lot of the times from college stress and adulthood in general. So I was a lot more paranoid, a lot more um, having a lot more hallucinations, and I was also experiencing my first like delusions, like my actual delusions. I was about 10 years old, and I've probably talked about this in older videos, but this was like my first delusion. I thought there was a monster in the toilet, and I had this experience where I was at this really stressful like kid party thing, and I got locked in the bathroom with the lights off, and I was absolutely terrified. And I was like sitting in front of all these kids, like shaking and like hysterically laughing and like rambling about this fucking bathroom monster, and like I was out of it. Like I had no idea. And I got home and I was like writing stuff all over the calendar because I figured that if the monster didn't kill me then, it was going to kill me in the future, and I had to figure out when that would be. As a 10-year-old. Um, and I was like looking at the clock, like if somebody coughed at a certain time, like that number meant something, and I would write it on the calendar and try to figure out which date and like all this shit. And then over the years, I just started getting symptoms that were more severe and more frequent. And by the time I was 15, I had another traumatic experience that sent me inpatient, and then I ended up going into inpatient, I think, 5 times for um, being suicidal, PTSD, and a couple times just for the schizophrenia. But the schizophrenia and the PTSD, they're kind of making out, they're kind of kissing. The PTSD usually triggers the schizophrenia because all of the stress, um, which is a big point with schizophrenia and managing it, is lowering your stress. That's basically my experience. And because it was so different than most people, whenever I said to my family, to doctors, to psychiatrists, hey, I have every single symptom of schizophrenia, and I have had it for the amount of time that is required to diagnose schizophrenia. This is a lifelong condition, and yes, it is usually triggered later in life, but it has not gone away for a decade. It has not gone away for 2 decades. Maybe this is something that I could get treatment for. And they said no. um, Basically, every single psychiatrist and therapist that I went to did not offer me any help. And the reasons that I was given was schizophrenia is icky. Schizophrenia is icky. Like, genuinely, that was the reason. I'm not even joking. There is a stigma against schizophrenia, and we have very little understanding of what schizophrenia is and what it looks like. We have a very, we being the psychiatrists and society in general, we see schizophrenia as, you know, wacky TV shows with scary monster men. Schizophrenic people are homeless. Schizophrenic people have poor hygiene. Schizophrenic people ramble about their crazy theories. Schizophrenic people have no connection with reality. Schizophrenic people can't know that they're schizophrenic, and a million misconceptions that they refuse to unpack. And if you think about each of those reasons, why would a schizophrenic person be homeless? Why would so many schizophrenic people experience homelessness? Are we going to think about that? Or, why are schizophrenic people known for being out on the streets, talking about their crazy theories, ruining the family potluck? Why aren't we thinking about why are these people actively having episodes 24/7? Why are these people not receiving treatment? Why are these people receiving treatment and then refusing it? Why are these people receiving treatment and it's not working? Why are those not the things that we're unpacking? Instead, the blame is going on the schizophrenic people. There's something wrong with them. They are pathologized. They are other. They are not productive members of society. And honestly, they make me uncomfortable. They're just kind of icky. It's weird. It's weird to talk about bathroom monsters. That's not what we talk about in a polite society. And every psychiatrist that I have talked to has such a big fucking head about it, right? Like, they think they are so fucking smart. I have a psychology degree. I'm studied in schizophrenia. I know what it is. I'm not trying to be rude. My lived experience as a schizophrenic person and the lived experience of any marginalized person and anyone with a disability is a million times more important than you spending a semester in school reading an outdated book about people in an insane asylum. Schizophrenia is incredibly complex and varied and different in every single person. Even in myself, I have had so many different symptoms, so many different episodes and types of delusions and hallucinations. You would think that they were different things. They even, this is another thing that pisses me off. They act like they are so smart, they know everything. Like, you have this diagnosis, you don't have this. You can't have this because you can speak well, because you're so pretty and cute and young, and I see you as a woman, and women can't have schizophrenia. Schizophrenia used to be separated into, like, I think it was 3 or 4 different types: catatonic, paranoid, disorganized. Schizophrenia, there were 3 different kinds. Guess what? There's one now. If you're in a field of study that is constantly changing, constantly learning new things about it, constantly realizing that the old shit you said isn't even fucking true, don't you think you should have an open mind at least? I have had episodes where I'm catatonic and I can't move and I can't talk. I have had episodes where I'm disorganized and it's just like I literally can't figure out how to brush my teeth. I can't figure out how to take a bath. I've had episodes where I'm paranoid. I feel like shit's watching me. I feel like the government, monsters, like robots, like so many different things. Schizophrenia is so broad and shows up in so many different ways. And there's also masking involved, which nobody acknowledges or talks about. Like I said, I have been experiencing symptoms since I was a very young kid. Whenever that episode happened, whenever I was 10 years old, you know what happened? Whenever I was walking around saying that a monster was going to kill me in front of a bunch of kids at a party, they made fun of me. They made fun of me. And then I realized, okay, we don't talk about the monsters. And I stopped talking about it. And I stopped externalizing my symptoms to protect myself from an ableist society. And then whenever I went to get treatment a couple years later as a teenager, I was told, you're not schizophrenic because you're not talking about the monsters. We love that. And by the way, why the absolute fuck would it matter whenever I have every single symptom of the disorder in the DSM? Baby girl, who's the one not following our psychology? Like, come on. Trying to get a diagnosis because it was important to me and I deserved one, right? And I am schizophrenic and I deserve to be able to put a name to something that is so important and so big in my life. I deserve that. Everyone deserves that. Like, a diagnosis for the thing that you have from a doctor. You should be able to get that. Like, I've been misdiagnosed. I have been diagnosed with psychosis from PTSD, psychosis from depression, psychosis from drugs that I never did.
This is me editing. I just wanted to put this in case you didn't know. Schizophrenia is not just psychosis, that is one symptom, and psychosis isn't even technically a diagnosis, it's a symptom. So they were essentially saying, we don't want to diagnose you with anything.
It's just ridiculous. Like, I was in Inpatient and I had a psychiatrist saying, "You hear voices? What do they tell you to do?" Whenever I finally did get diagnosed, I got my official diagnosis. I think by that time I was an adult, and I had been seeking out treatment since I was 15 years old. At this point, I was probably 18 or 19, maybe. Actually, no, I was 20. I was 20. I was desperately trying to get a diagnosis and to get the proper treatment and to be able to name what I had since I was 15 years old. I knew that I had schizophrenia since I was 13, and I didn't get an official diagnosis until I was 20 years old. While since I was 15, being inpatient 5 times, having a psychiatrist and therapist constantly the entire time. And you know how I got diagnosed? I went in there and I was finally visibly schizophrenic, and it was good enough for them. And they said, "What's going on? What are your diagnoses and stuff?" Because they knew I'd been in there before, and I was like, "I'm schizophrenic. I have schizoaffective disorder, bipolar type 1, actually." And I was like laying down, like I couldn't even lift my head, and I was just like, "Yeah, I have CPTSD, I have this, I have that." Like, I just told them. I told them what I had, and they said, "Okay." And then I ended up with a paper that said I had those things. I never had a doctor tell me that I had those things. I told myself, and then I told them. And they said, "Okay," because they finally could see it. I shouldn't have had to get to that point. I shouldn't have had to have repeated episodes over and over that put me in the hospital 5 times. I should have came in the first time and they should have listened to me, and I should have got the treatment that I needed, but I didn't. They sent me to family therapy with my abusive mom. They sent me to a therapist that said that I was trans because of my trauma. They sent me to a therapist that said there is no way to cope with schizophrenia except for with medication. They sent me to a million different people that were dumb as shit and did not give me the treatment that I needed. And here's another thing. The only comfort that I have found, the only like healing that I have found has been outside of the mental health field, because they are so dumb as shit. They are so ableist, they're so transphobic, they're so clueless about marginalized identities and capitalism. Like, the treatment they were trying to give me was not a treatment. It wasn't what I needed. It's not what people in general need. Whenever I went to Inpatient, I saw so many people not getting treatment that it drove me crazy. Like, the second to last time I was inpatient, I was literally running around that place manic and trying to help people because it was so bad.
Me editing, I never explained the part where I said I was running around trying to help people. I was literally like writing outpatient plans for people because the hospital wasn't doing it and was discharging people that were still actively suicidal and saying that they were going to commit suicide whenever they got out. And they just didn't believe them. They just kind of rolled their eyes like, "Yeah, I bet you will. Do it."
It was like unbelievable. It was almost like traumatic. And I know for a lot of people, Inpatient is a traumatic experience. I've seen like teenage girls getting, you know, restrained by adult men and getting stabbed in the ass with a sedative. People getting locked in padded rooms because they're being bad. Like, oh my god. I've seen so many people get invalidated and told that the problems that they're having are just their anxiety. It's just your delusions. It's just your mental illness. Like, that's the point. Like, how can a doctor discriminate against you based on the disorder that they are supposed to be treating? One of the pills that they gave me, Inpatient, made my throat feel like it was closing up. And I knew they wouldn't believe me. And I waited a day so that the next night I could take it and make sure that's the reason my throat was closing up. And then I went and I told the nurse, and she said, "It's probably just your anxiety. You're probably just having a panic attack or something. Anxiety can make it hard to breathe." And I said, "I know what fucking anxiety is, bitch." I didn't really say that, but I said, "I know what anxiety is. I'm a person that has been living with anxiety for a very long time. I know what anxiety feels like." And that was not anxiety. And she said, "Okay, we'll talk to them about it." The next day, a doctor comes up to me and says, "I heard you're being med non-compliant. I heard you're not taking your meds. You need to take them." You need to take your meds. My roommate, whenever I was there, he kept telling them that his meds weren't working and he wasn't feeling any better and he was still suicidal. And they discharged him. And he said that he didn't want to be discharged. There were a lot of people that said they didn't feel safe to be discharged. They were still suicidal. They didn't feel any better. They weren't getting the help that they needed. And he was telling them, like, every single day, my meds aren't working. My meds aren't working. I need my meds changed. And they found out 2 days before he was discharged, they were giving him the wrong dose of meds the entire time and telling him that it was just his anxiety and they would work soon. Don't worry about it. And they discharged him whenever he only had working meds for 2 days and was not better. You know where he probably ended up? Inpatient again. Everyone that I met in there had either been an inpatient one time or they had been in there like 8 times. People would brag about how many times they had been inpatient. That is not normal. That is a pattern. There was also like no acknowledgement of how genuine life circumstances could affect somebody's mental health. There there was a guy that spent 2.5 months there because he was waiting for housing, and they discharged him one morning. They didn't tell him until he woke up that he was going to a homeless shelter. How are you supposed to get better in a homeless shelter? The guy that I drove home with whenever we were getting transported, he was also going to a homeless shelter. There were so many people there that were poor, that didn't have housing, that didn't have access to their basic necessities. And they were being blamed for their own mental health. All you need to do is, be more positive. Why don't you try a coloring book? Like, we were just so infantilized. Like, they just treated us like the biggest burden, like these stupid mentally ill children that didn't know how to live. Like like we were so stupid. There was no acknowledgement of trauma. There was no like support. There was no humanity. It was so like clinical, and there was also like no individualized care. Every person had the same exact treatment plan. Like, get housing, try to get a job whenever you get out, try to be normal, take your meds even if you don't need meds. Like, there were people that were in there because like someone they loved just died, right? And they gave them meds for depression and then sent them home. What is that meant to do? Like, everyone had the same exact treatment plan and everyone had the same exact care inside of the inpatient facility, even if they had caretakers at home. There was a girl that was autistic and she had high care needs. She didn't know how to, you know, we had food there. She didn't know how to go and take her tray and dump her food out and shit like that. She would have had someone to do that for her at home, and they wouldn't help her. And they made fun of her because she was an adult and she should have known how to do that. They made fun of her because she was fat. They made fun of her because she ate so much whenever she probably had binge eating disorder, but they had no treatment for people with eating disorders. The like base treatment is for people with anxiety and depression. The people with schizophrenia, if you're walking around and you're screaming about the fucking aliens or whatever the shit, you're getting sedated, you're getting sent to your room, you're gonna probably sleep for about a week until your antipsychotics start working, which a lot of times it's sedating you because they med people out of their mind. There was a time I went there as a teenager and everyone was sitting on the couch, like basically high, like so sedated, like we couldn't even move. I'm gonna ask it again. Why are there so many mentally ill people that are homeless? Why are there so many mentally ill people repeatedly having episodes and going inpatient and relapsing? Why are there so many people not getting the care that they need? I also wanted to add that a lot of people struggled with their insurance. There were people that desperately wanted out of there because they knew they couldn't afford it and they were stuck. There were people that left with there were people that left with $5,000 medical bills. And I also wanted to say that the staff in there, even though there were a lot of bad people, it wasn't all bad. And it is the system. The system is the problem. A lot of people that worked there were people that have had mental health issues in their past and they wanted to help people, and they ended up in a situation where they were overworked and understaffed and mistreated and part of a system where they were seeing so many people go without help and seeing so many people come back inpatient again and again. Like, so many of them were just like defeated. This is like a heavy conversation. I don't like it. I'm going to try to lighten the mood and talk about what I have been doing to validate and take care of myself as a schizophrenic person. I have found community with other mentally ill people that are like disabled. Like they say, I have a disability. I am discriminated against by our society. Like being able to acknowledge that I'm not the problem. I was made to feel for so long like I was the problem. And if I was relapsing, if I was going back inpatient, it was my fault. Like they almost treated inpatient like a punishment, like you did something wrong. Oh, you're back again, huh? That kind of thing. I honestly don't have everything figured out, but I'm on meds that work. And the thing is, I don't have a psychiatrist that I trust, and I have never had one that I trust. The last episode that I had was in February of this year. I didn't go inpatient. I was working, and working is one of the things that they tell us we're supposed to do and that are supposed to make us feel better. Housing, a job, those are the main things: therapy, meds, house, job, which is so. Do you not see what that is? It's normalization, it's capitalism. It's pretend you're not mentally ill, pretend you're not disabled, live like a normal person. And a lot of us literally cannot. Like I already said, my episodes and most schizophrenic people's episodes are caused by stress. You know what's stressful? Working a capitalist wage slave job. Like working every single day, working 8 hours a day, and like not having the autonomy to take breaks or take time off or to recover. And I haven't been working since this episode because I quit my job. I quit my job whenever I had this episode because I was like, I just can't do it anymore. Like, I was so burnt out and exhausted. I'm like shaking a little bit because I'm getting upset. Um, I was so burnt out and exhausted. I had a week-long episode with my schizophrenia, and I was going to work every single day with this episode. I I worked in a grocery store, like stocking and doing the cash register. I had my boss get upset with me because I wasn't smiling at the customers. One of the symptoms of schizophrenia is a like flat affect or something, and you just have a very like deadpan face and voice. Um, I didn't know who the customers were. I didn't know who my coworkers were. I thought certain coworkers were trying to kill me. I didn't understand what was going on. I was just so disconnected. I didn't even like really understand what I was doing there or what I was supposed to be doing there. And I went to work like that every day, and it was exhausting. And it's because I didn't want to take off work because there was this like stigma and this expectation like you should go to work because if you don't you're gonna fuck over whoever has to take over your shift. And I ended up quitting. I could have taken a leave of absence or something, but I was just like, the stress of knowing that I'm gonna have to go back to work at some point and that there's like a a certain date that I'm supposed to stop my episode, right? Like stop being mentally ill and go back to work. Like it's just not possible. And I am going to have to go back to work soon. And it's so stressful. I'm scared. Like, I don't want to go through that again. I really don't. And the stress was partially because PTSD and because of work, because it messes with my sleep schedule, because I have no downtime, because I have to be around people constantly, because my bosses stress me out. I think the like autistic community, like people that are like really accept themselves as an autistic person, as a neurodivergent person, and don't try to conform to societal bullshit. And like, I don't know, I think that's so liberating, and I think that mindset could be transferred to like schizophrenic people and all different types of, you know, mental illness and disability. And I don't know if autistic, I don't know who started that shit, but just disabled people in general, our society's idea of someone living a good life is them being normal, them being able bodied and neurotypical. And you literally can't do that. I can't make myself stop being schizophrenic. I need to live a good life as a schizophrenic person and taking care of myself as a schizophrenic person. And that might mean taking time off of work, lowering my stress, living a really chill life, like taking medication, like using coping skills. I don't even know. I don't know. I don't know because there's no frame of reference. Like there aren't, I haven't had any mental health professionals that knows what to do about schizophrenia other than medication. Take your antipsychotics. By the way, I haven't mentioned this. A lot of people, including myself, still experience psychosis while they're on meds. Whenever I'm stressed out, even when I'm on meds, I have episodes. And I have to manage that and learn to live with that. And I have had to figure those things out myself because mental health professionals don't know what they're doing because they don't listen to other schizophrenic people and they don't have an open mind and they don't think about things in the lens of disability and accessibility and accommodations. My last inpatient experience, which is also kind of like, it's weird that that's the last one that I've had in a while. Almost like because they fucking helped me a little bit. Like, I was actually treated like a person. They actually had like nutrition plans for people. They made me special vegetarian food. Like, the food was good. I also forgot to mention in that other inpatient place, I was there during COVID. People didn't get COVID tests, people didn't wear masks. We were so like crowded in there, like overcrowded. There were people that had to sit on the floor to eat their food because there weren't enough chairs for everyone. I'm really exhausted. I'm really exhausted by all of it. And I think that's why I've been procrastinating making this video for like 2 years because it's such a heavy topic and it's honestly like traumatic. It's traumatic to experience ableism and to be inpatient and experience that medical abuse and neglect. and ableism. It's just, I don't know. I'm really hoping things can get better. I don't have like a happy ending to it. Right now I'm doing okay, but I will most likely have an episode again if I'm being honest. I will most likely burn out at work. I'll most likely have an episode at work. Like, I don't know what to say about it. That's why so many fucking schizophrenic people are homeless. We can't work. I could get on disability. Should I get on disability? Leave a comment down below if you think I should get on disability. But that just puts you in poverty, so let me know if you have any cool video topics. Oh my guy's eyes fell off. You just saw me pick those off and say, oh no, they fell off, but yeah, that's everything. I hope this video isn't too sad. Have a good day. Take care of yourself. I love you. Bye. Oh, and let me know your schizophrenic experiences and inpatient experiences of blah, 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 blah. Bye.